Yes, people, what's happening? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another video. First things first, guys, you know what to do. Make sure you smash the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here, and as always, leave your thoughts in the comments below. Just 40 subscribers from 8K now, so every new subscriber really helps us get to that target as quickly as possible, maybe even from today's video, so please do help me out, guys. And let's dive into it. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about Mykhailo Mudryk and the situation that he currently finds himself in at Chelsea. Obviously, we know he arrived, last January 2022, January 23, for initial £62.5 million from Shakhtar Donetsk, rising to 88 million potentially if he wins a Champions League and a Premier League during his time at the club. We obviously hijacked the move from under Arsenal's noses. And look, he had an electric debut up at Liverpool at Anfield, and we were thought, yeah, great. This is going to be a top player for us. It looked electric, looked absolutely exceptional. It's not really happened for him so far. I mean, I was shocked to see that since he joined over a year ago, he's only played 2 full 90 minutes for the team, which is quite remarkable, really. I mean, yes, he's a big money signing. Yes, when he joined at 22 years of age, he wasn't the most experienced, didn't have an awful lot of games under his belt, but he'd shown that there was potential there was ability there was talent there. We've seen him do it for Shakhtar Donetsk in the Champions League on multiple occasions, looking really threatening, got a standing ovation off the pitch at the Bernabeu. You've got to be pretty special to get that, but we've not really seen an awful lot of what he can show at Chelsea. And in the last 3 games, he's been a totally unused sub. I don't think he's featured, he hasn't featured since, I think, Preston in the FA Cup, which is a bit of a mad one. Oh, it might be Aston Villa in the FA Cup in the replay. I can't exactly remember, but he's not featured certainly in the last 3 games. And yeah, he's not getting, for me, he's not getting the opportunities that a big price tag signing would get. Normally when someone comes in for a big amount of money, they normally get a lot of opportunities. Mudryk's not been receiving those opportunities. Surely Chelsea can't have written him off already. I refuse to believe that. I'm not saying that he should be starting every single week, but he should be getting bench minutes ahead of central midfield players in his position. I really don't think that's an awful lot to ask for. It is a really interesting one now. And I've been critical of Pochettino's use of Mudryk, and as I said, he's been an unused sub 3 times in a row. Kind of a crazy for a young player that we spent all that money on just a year ago. But then we saw a similar situation with Noni Madueke when Pochettino came out and said, that Noni basically wasn't working hard enough. We need more from him. He didn't feature for quite a number of games, and he's come back in, had his opportunity, and he's done well. And maybe it's the same thing for Mudryk. Poch is saying that these younger players need to suffer, they need to understand what it's like not to play. And I get that. One of my main issues with Mudryk, and I'm a massive fan of Mykhailo Mudryk, I think he's got the potential to be a top player and absolutely believe that he can reach that at Chelsea. I know those of you that tune in, there's a lot of you that tune in that don't rate him at all. That's fair enough. My main issue with him has been his positioning and his movement. And surely that's partly got to be down to Pochettino's instructions. In games, you very rarely see him, speak to Mudryk or shout at him or whatever. And you always felt that Poch and Mudryk had a kind of a good relationship. He'd always be an arm around the shoulder. He was getting runs of games, in various parts of the season and being effective, scoring goals, getting assists and whatnot. But this maybe feels like the first time now that Poch isn't happy with what Mudryk's doing. And look, you can still look at it as maybe poor management, that he's not really tried to, adjust those things in Mudryk's game which need fixing. But if Poch just told him in training and he's not doing it, then obviously Mudryk doesn't deserve to play. He's got so much pace, but he doesn't really understand how to use it. His footballing IQ is not the best. That can certainly be developed. So he can certainly, get better for sure. I think he'll significantly improve once he starts playing on a regular basis. But you've just got to hope that this spell without minutes doesn't last too long. Because I think maybe it could help Mudryk in the long run, finally move around more and become a better football player. But, it's the same thing that there's no rush with Mudryk. I don't think necessarily. He doesn't deserve to play over anyone currently. And as one of his biggest fans, that really does hurt me. And even though he's 23 years of age, he hasn't got a ton of games under his belt. But the development of the player really, really does confuse me a little bit. It feels like chronic mismanagement of him since joining a year ago. As I said, how has he only played 2 full 90 minutes? He's not been injured very much at all. I mean, how is a player meant to develop when he's not playing? I mean, and what makes it worse, I mean, aside from the weekend, is that Sterling's virtually been playing every week, who is awful 90% of the time and is, heading towards the latter years of his career. So why not play Mudryk instead? That for me is the big thing that I'm not quite understanding in regards to him. It's obviously something not quite right with what he's doing on the training pitch, or maybe just everyone else is doing better, and he can't justify him starting over him. Which, okay, fair enough, I get, but that doesn't justify him not being able to get minutes from the bench. How can he not get any minutes from the bench? This is what is not making sense to me. I'm not saying he's been revelationary this season, but you can't tell me a £62.5 million investment, someone you've got high hopes for the future, shouldn't at least be getting bench minutes every single week. And yet he's struggling right now to even find that. So I just don't understand what's going wrong. Something's obviously not going right at the club for Mudryk at the moment, or maybe, I don't know, but I just think even if you don't think he's good enough, right, why would you let him rot on the bench? You would at least send him out on loan to play regular minutes, get that regular football and develop his game. I do feel for him. I think he's more than good enough and he just needs time right now and he's not getting it. For me, there absolutely is a serious player in there waiting to emerge. I'm so sure of it. Look at Rasmus Højlund as a similar sort of example. It wasn't happening for him. I know obviously United are in a different situation where, they haven't really got other centre forwards, so they did need to stick with him, whereas Chelsea do have other wide options, but the principle still applies. When it wasn't happening for him, Ten Hag didn't fuck him off. No, he stuck with him. And now look, we have to be patient with Mykhailo Mudryk. He's come from a war-torn country, no Premier League experience, still a very young player, hasn't played an awful lot of games. And look, I get what people say about Sterling being one of the experienced player and whatnot, and Palmer our best player by a mile. And people will be like, well, who do you want him to start over? But I'd much rather see Mudryk instead of Sterling. Sterling isn't the future of the club. He's not been delivering performances that you'd expect from him. And we really need to be making sure that Mudryk is ready for when Sterling moves on, which I feel and which hopefully will be in the summer. Then he needs to be ready to step into that void. And he's not going to. He's not going to. We should have sent him on loan, really. What's he meant to do when he's not even getting opportunities from the bench? And look, it would have come out if he wasn't training well. Poch would have commented on it. Mudryk, one thing you can criticize Mudryk for a lot of things, but one thing you can't criticize him for is his work rate, his ethic, and how hard he trains. So obviously, Poch is just not seeing something in him right now, or he needs him to suffer to realize what it's like to not play, to not be selected, and then maybe that will reignite a fire in him and push him on and potentially get more out of him. But it really is a strange one. He's obviously out of favour at the moment, but you could say he needs to go on loan. And yeah, part of me would think that would be a good idea. But then he absolutely needs to stay at Chelsea for me beyond the summer. We need to see more consistency, but we signed him to an 8-year contract for a reason. He's part of the long-term plan here. And just because it's not really happened in the first year doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. And it's now down to him to show he's up to the level. But it is an interesting situation because, and I said it at the time, signing all these young players, one of the drawbacks of this was going to be that some are going to develop and get regular minutes and others are going to stagnate and not develop as quickly or not really reach their full potential because they've not been playing enough. And, these players that have been signed for resale value, you're not going to get much resale value when a lot of them aren't going to get the minutes they need to keep them in the shop window and potentially make a profit on them. So, yeah, it is one of the major drawbacks, particularly, again, with the age profile of the squad massively imbalanced, everyone pretty much the same age. It really doesn't help either. But it is curious because Mudryk, when he was playing in December around Christmas time, was doing well. He scored in the Arsenal game. He was picking up assists. He scored against Crystal Palace. He was looking dangerous. He was making things happen. And then all of a sudden, he picked up that knock in the Palace game just after Christmas. And then he's not really been able to get back in the team since. Hardly had any opportunities from the bench. And yeah, we seem to just be a little bit of a conundrum, a little bit of a loss with him right now. But absolutely, you know, we shouldn't be giving up on him. We shouldn't be writing him off. The club spent £62.5 million on him for a reason, because they believe in him. And now that talent needs to be nurtured. One thing that Chelsea have not been great at over the years is developing players or being patient and giving players the time that they need. You know, Mudryk was never going to come in and be an instant success. Neither was Noni Madueke. You know, if you believe in these guys, they need to give them the time, the opportunities, and develop and nurture them. Because otherwise, we're just going to go in a situation where we're spending a lot of money on players, not giving them the opportunity, selling them at a loss, and then rinse and repeating with multiple other players, which is not a conducive strategy in the long run whatsoever. So, yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on the Mudryk situation, people. I know it's a bit of a weird one at the moment. He's been here over a year now, still only played 2 full 90s, out of favour right now. Clearly, the manager's not seeing, and something's missing from what Pochettino wants from him. But I've got full hope that Mudryk will make, you know, will make a success of himself at Chelsea. But you know, if these, you know, if not getting minutes goes on for much longer, he doesn't really feature much for the remainder of the season, then there is a conversation to be had about sending him on loan in the summer, because there's no point having someone just sitting on the bench rotting when they need minutes to develop. And if you're not going to get the opportunity at Chelsea to get those minutes, then he should be sent elsewhere to get them. But yeah, guys, that's just my thoughts on Mudryk. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. As I said, run the likes up, subscribe if you're new around here. Let's get to 8K as quickly as possible. Just 40 subscribers to go. And I'll catch you guys in another video soon. Up the Chelsea and peace out.